religion, if you just take out the law, you have this new character, Paul, the Paul who's an apostle to the Gentiles, have these letters of Paul, it could work. You have this religion for the empire. So Revelation 8 is key in understanding that Jesus was originally created to be a composite character of the deified Caesars. Most notably, the first deified Caesar, Julius Caesar, who shares a similar passion to Jesus as the Italian linguist Carotta. I mentioned Carotta in other videos. Carotta discovered in his book, Jesus Was Caesar, that there are definitely similarities between Julius Caesar and Christ, specifically the Passion. So again, the seven angels are described in a hidden way, focusing on their accomplishments as emperor. So what really gives it away is the third angel, which is the third deified Caesar Claudius, Emperor Claudius. It's described as blowing a trumpet, and a star named wormwood falls from heaven and poisons many waters. This is quite obvious a reference to Claudius, since obviously he's the third emperor, third angel here. He was also poisoned by wormwood. So the fifth angel, which refers to Titus, is quite unique also, since he's given the key to the bottomless pit, which is where the beast will be unleashed. Again, Domitian places the blame of all the deaths of the Jews, the destruction of the temple, even the creation of Jesus, which is kind of an ugly religion if you look at the history of it and what it means. This is a beast, and Domitian places all the blame on his brother Titus. So Revelation chapter 10 begins by describing the seventh angel, the mysterious angel, who, of course, is the Roman creation for the Jews, Jesus. The seventh angel, Jesus, who is holding a scroll, tells John to eat the scroll, which will taste like honey to the mouth, but bitter to the stomach. John then does this as instructed by Jesus, again, talking about same chapter, Revelation 10. So John does what the seventh angel, who's Jesus, tells him to do, and this is actually true. And this, of course, this scroll represents the Gospels, the New Testament scripture. Beautiful on the surface level, but evil and disturbing when one really discovers what it means and also the history behind it, why it was created, and also that it's a joke on the Jews. I, too, am like the character of John. I have found this to be true, that the Gospel of Mark specifically was written for the Jews, to humiliate the Jews and worship as sort of a self-humiliation. But when I was a kid reading the Bible, I thought it was beautiful. But as I've become as an adult, I've done a lot of I've spent decades researching this, and, it's just really ugly when one finds out the truth. Anyway, moving on, chapter 13, Revelation, has always puzzled me because there is a shaft earlier in Revelation where a beast will be released, but also this chapter has two completely different beasts, the first of which rises out of the sea. These two beasts are Emperor Vespasian and his son Titus, who conquered Judea, enslaved the Jews, and forced them to worship the Roman creation Jesus as their Messiah. And also, importantly, is that Emperor Vespasian was nearly killed. He was wounded early on in the campaign. He was wounded in the head, I believe is in the head or face. And also Revelation mentions this first beast who comes out of the sea with a mortal wound, or gets over its mortal wound. This refers to Vespasian. And the dragon, also in chapter 13, refers to Nero, who was emperor before Vespasian and wanted desperately to be deified. Now, it's my theory that the Christians mention in Tacitus's history of Rome, who were blamed for the burning of Rome by Nero, were actually Caesar-worshipping Christians. So, because Nero was not a very well-liked emperor, he knew he wouldn't get deified, and there's probably a lot of tension between these Caesar-worshipping Christians and Nero. So I think the term Christian is really a title for devout followers of the imperial cult. And it might have had a different term, maybe similar idea, using the Latin word soter. I'm not really sure, but again, I believe that this title Christian really came from the imperial cult. I don't have any sort. It's just an idea. It's just something I've thought of reading about. I was just reading Tacitus's History of Rome. It just kind of clicked. Like, it doesn't seem that Tacitus is actually talking about this Jesus. Tacitus is talking about Christians or people who worship Caesar. So anyway, moving on, the beast who is inflicted with a mortal wound but heals refers to Vespasian, which I just mentioned. The second beast who appears out of the land is, of course, Emperor Titus, who, according to verse 11, had 2 horns like a lamb, but spoke like a dragon. Again, the dragon earlier on I mentioned refers to Nero. I suspect here that Domitian is kind of making fun of his brother by relating him to Emperor Nero, who wanted to be deified. Now, of course, Titus was deified, but again, I think there are a lot of inner jokes. I don't think we'll ever really understand all the mysteries and all the inner jokes and little things, but we can get a general idea of the book of Revelation and why it was written. So chapter 14 places the blame of the deaths of thousands of Jews, perhaps over 100,000, as the book of Revelation describes, on Emperor Titus. Thus Domitian absolves himself of any blame for their deaths. Revelation chapter 16, just like earlier in the book of Revelation, the deified Caesars and Domitian are described in order, starting with Julius Caesar, as angels who are to pour onto the earth a bowl of the wrath of God. So earlier, these angels were lighting a flame. Now the angels are pouring a wrath of God. I think there's a theme here in Revelation. And Atwill talks about this also in his book, Shakespeare's Secret Messiah, where he talks about Revelation, that there are 2 sides to this Christian thing that's been created by Rome. There's like a beautiful side and a really ugly side. And so I think this wrath, we looked at the beautiful side earlier. Now the angels are pouring a bowl of wrath, the wrath of God. So this is the ugly side of Christianity. So verse 2 shows proof of Carotta's theory. Quote, this is the first angel, who would be Julius Caesar, poured his bowl on the earth, and foul and evil sores came upon the men who bore the mark of the beast. So here, foul sores refer to the violence and conflict that gripped Rome after Julius Caesar's death. So, and also Revelation chapter 17, verse 10 describes the 7 kings. Again, like angels or spirits, we have 7 kings now. 5 of which who have fallen, one is, the other has not yet come. I'll read that again. So again, this is Revelation chapter 17, verse 10. 5 of which have fallen, one is, the other has not yet come. This refers to the ongoing theme of Christ being a composite character of the deified Caesars, 5 of who have fallen. So these are the 5 deified Caesars. Again, it always goes in order, starting with Julius Caesar. Then you have Caesar Augustus. In Revelation, it talks about the sea, which was Augustus's major accomplishment, the sea battles against Mark Antony. The third one, we have Claudius. 4th, we have Vespasian. And lastly, we have Titus. These are the 5 who have fallen. And the living Caesar, who would that be? That's Domitian, who's still alive. And the other one who has not yet come, this is Jesus, the character. Strangely, verse 11 states, as for the beast that was and is not, it is an eighth king, but it belongs to the 7 and it goes to perdition. So this is interesting, because this is the only part where you have these 7 kings or 7 angels, these 7, it describes the 7. This is the only one where it throws in an 8th, and the 8th is a beast. So again, we have 2 sides here. We have Jesus, who's the lamb, the slain lamb. It's, beautiful. He's Messiah. He heals. But the beast is this ugly side of Christianity, which is that this is a created religion, and it was created to humiliate the Jews. And the Jews were forced to worship their crucified Messiah, which a crucified Messiah is kind of like an oxymoron. It's a joke. It's a joke on the Jews. So I understand this to be the beast is an ugly aspect, but also that if the common people, again, this is written, in the late first century, this is 95, 96, and this was written. Domitian says that if the common people find out that not only is Jesus a fictional character, but that this religion is a joke on the Jews, then the Flavian dynasty will forever be damned. And so I think Domitian is kind of fearful that people will find out. So this book of Revelation is also a guide for the nascent church, this early Christian church. So chapter 18, Revelation, again, there are 22 chapters. We're getting towards the end. Chapter 18 is quite intriguing. I'm not sure if Domitian wrote this as a prophecy or a warning or both. I'm not really sure, but I believe that Domitian is warning the Roman elites, the people that know what Christianity is, that if people were to find out the truth of this religion, it would destroy not only Rome, but also the incredible economy that Rome has created. So verses 11 to 13 in chapter 18 really describe all of the economic activity. If Rome falls, if the people find out about this religion, that economic activity might end. So thus the burning of Rome, or Babylon as Revelation uses in secret code, is the judgment that awaits the city, the central government, if the people find out about this religion was a lie. Thus Domitian is explaining why he transitioned the special cult for Jews to become the primary religion of the empire. It will grow the economy, and having one united religion and united culture is going to help Rome grow and thrive. So Domitian, again, realizes that he's kind of like God. He's good, but he's also Satan too, because he realizes that, okay, he's transitioned this to not be for Jews, but be for Gentiles, but it's still a joke. It's still a joke religion. I talked about this in another video. Having Gnostic elements in this anti-Gnostic religion is really kind of contradictory. The Roman elite, whoever edited these Christian writings, they took out the demiurge, which means that the Father and demiurge, it's just kind of crazy. So Revelation chapter 19, verse 20, Domitian, as the new Christ on his white horse, captures the beast, who is Emperor Titus, and his false prophet, which is, I guess, the original concept of Jesus, or the ugly side of Jesus, and are thrown in a lake of fire that burns with, quote, sulfur. This is essentially what the book of Revelation is about, that Domitian is the new Christ with a new message. That this Christ created by Titus has fooled those Jews who were captured in Judea. The issue here is that Domitian is a bit like Satan. He didn't completely destroy Christ. He merely made this fictional character the Messiah for the entire empire. He removed the need for the Jewish law, and of course he made this Messiah character, Jesus, not only Messiah, not only Son of God, but also God himself, or one with God, just like Caesar, just like Emperor. So I believe that in Revelation 20, Domitian knows that sometime in the future, perhaps 1,000 years, as Revelation states, that people will find out the truth, and that he and his brother will be looked upon as being both good and bad. So going back to the title of this video, which is Revelation is not an apocalyptic text. This is not about any kind of end of the world. All this wrath and destruction is really what awaits Rome if the common people, the hoi polloi, the common man, find out that the Flavian dynasty created all of this. And now, here we are 2,000 years later. There's a lot on the internet. There's a lot of information. I think because of 2,000 years of propaganda, it's really difficult to see this. But I have to say, Shakespeare's Secret Messiah, written by Joseph Atwill, is the greatest book ever written on Christianity, because it shows that the proof of the Flavian creation, and also what the religion is, which is Jesus is a composite character representing the 5 deified Caesars. This proof is in Revelation, and it can't be denied. I've read a lot of books about the Flavian creation. I've read a lot of material. I've also read the books about Arius Piso, and it's kind of a stretch. But when I came across this book, it's the proof. So again, this book is really a guide. It's guiding the church and the leaders of the church to let them know, yeah, it's a creation, but don't let people find out, because it's good for the empire. It's ultimately good for Rome, for the economy, to help it prosper. It's not a bad religion, but, you know, Domitian, he's on his white horse. Domitian, as the final Christ, slays the beast and the false prophet. He's trying to eliminate the evil, ugly part of Christianity, which is it was created to humiliate the enslaved Jews of Rome who were forced to worship a false Messiah, a crucified Messiah. And that's really ugly. And so I guess now, 2,000 years later, figuring this out, I guess Domitian, yeah, he's good and bad. But again, I don't know if people will really agree with this. I don't know if people will believe this. It took me a long time to come to understand this. I've read so much about the book of Revelation. I've read so many research articles. This is the only piece. I mean, Shakespeare's Secret Messiah is the only book that has ever made sense of the book of Revelation. It's only looking at Revelation through the lens of the Flavian creation of Christianity can one fully, 100% understand the book of Revelation. I'll say that one more time. This is my last sentence, the last thing I'm going to say before I close this video. It's only looking at Revelation through the lens of the Flavian creation of Christianity that one can actually understand and comprehend the book of Revelation. It's the only way. Thank you for listening.